Thank you. And that's your running.
Do it live. All right.
Wait. Is it going?
Oh, it's going all right.
Oh, yeah, it's going.
Oh, it's
I see.
going.
Going to the freaking moon.
Get on over to YouTube.
Is that the South Park?
No.
That sounded like, get on down to South Park.
I was doing the Justin Timberlake bring on down to Lakeville. No.
Oh.
I think it's an SNL. I think it's SNL.
I know what you're talking about.
Old JT.
Justin Tieber.
Justin Tieber.
Well, while we're waiting for people to join in the audience, we do have a few people in here now. So for everyone who's in here, you should let us know what the last few movies were that you watched. And speaking of, gentlemen, what did you guys watch this week? Let's start off with Jimmy Jam.
The suspense. So since we last recorded, I watched an old Howard Hawks movie starring Cary Grant and Gene Arthur called Only Angels Have Wings. It was really good. It's about a this group of pilots that basically just run mail through over plane in South America, and it's just about the dangers that they face and how often they risk death and trying to navigate starting relationships whenever that is the environment. But it was really good. Cary Grant's obviously always great. It's I think it's the very first role for Rita Hayworth, which is cool. And it's got Thomas Mitchell, who is the uncle from It's a Wonderful Life and the drunkard from Stagecoach. He's also from Mr. Deeds Goes to Washington. He's just, anytime he pops up, I'm like, God, I love this guy. He's so good.
Nice.
So
it was really Mr. Deeds?
There's Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, and then there's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. So he was, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just know Mr. Deeds, the Adam Sandler movie.
That is actually a remake of an old movie.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Who is in that? Hold on. I think that's actually Jimmy Stewart.
It's Adam Sandler, bro.
Dude, where's the Adam Sandler movie where he's playing as Jimmy Stewart?
Oh, we need it. Well, no. So it stars Gary Cooper, but it's directed by the guy who did Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and It's a Wonderful Life. So it's probably awesome.
Yeah,
that's sick.
But anyway, so yeah, I watched that and it was great. I really, liked it a lot. I watched some Godzilla movies. I watched Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. It's a fun, silly little sci-fi time travel romp. It's special effects so bad you wouldn't believe it. I love it. I watched Godzilla vs. Mothra, which the 90s version is way too close to the 60s version and not as good. So it's just kind of boring. But then I watched Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, which is one of my favorites of the sequels so far. It's just, it hits the right balance of we all know this is goofy. There's a giant monster and they're like, what's the best way to battle a giant monster? We build a giant metal monster in the exact and choose to shape it in the same shape as the monster. There's no practical purpose. You're put a tail on it and spikes on the back and make them roar. It's there's no reason for that. But they do it and it's cool. So I actually really like this one a lot. And then the biggest surprise of the week though is, so I'm playing, Drew's playing this as well. Yakuza, starting at the beginning, Yakuza 0. It just got me really in the Yakuza mood. So I'm I want to watch some Japanese crime thrillers. And and I picked a movie called Occult. People keep thinking I say like occult, as in like occultism. It is a cult, COLT. A cult is my passport, and it is so cool. It is one of the purely coolest movies I've seen. Where like it is like a Japanese noir blended like top to bottom in like a spaghetti western. So like the third act is something that would like make Sergio Leone's heart soar. It's like dust being swept up by the wind while lone gunmen walk into a field, and like it's so cool. It is just one of the coolest movies I've seen. So
That's awesome.
that was the one that really surprised me, where I'm like, it's super simple. If you've seen Fistful of Dollars or Yojimbo, just, it's a super simple story, super like small location. It's just a pretty clear premise. A hit happens and you're trying to like hide out, wait things out, try to escape. So really easy to follow premise. The whole thing is just an exercise in making everything look and sound as cool as possible. So I loved it.
That's awesome. I'll definitely have to check it out because I definitely am in the mood for like some Yakuza-esque stuff. I watched Infernal Affairs, which I think I talked about that last week, didn't I? Or maybe I didn't.
I don't think so.
Okay, well that's a little spoiler for what I watched this week, but that is a Chinese directed film, so it's not Yakuza. It's with the Triad, but man, what an awesome film! Definitely like Yakuza vibes there, just in terms of like how it's serious, but it also has like a lot of style to it. So
I want to watch that. I want to watch it for Tony Leung.
Yes. Oh man, what a guy. Before we hear your films, Michael, Slasher Fred is here. So welcome back, dude.
What's up, Slasher Fred?
He said, speaking of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, did you know that the movie was originally written as a sequel to Mr. Deeds Goes to Town?
I had always wondered why the names were so like I always got the two like names mixed up in my head. That's funny that it was conceived as that.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Very nice.
Goes to town.
I just want to rewatch Mr. Deeds.
I need to see that for the first time.
Oh man, Michael, what have you been watching?
Again, not a ton this week. I did get to listen. Okay, my weekly plea for you guys to start Severance. It's incredible. We're halfway through season 2, and it's blowing my mind every week. Drew, what are you doing, dude? Come on.
I know. I promise I'm catching up on it this week.
James, I know you have more of the show to catch up on, but still, you got to do it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm telling you. So, the main movie that I watched this week, other than the one we're talking about tonight, is I finally went to the theater again. It's been a long time, way too long, but I watched Captain America: Brave New World, and it was fine. I went into this one. I was really excited when the trailers started coming out because they were really good. At least that first one was really, really good. It was like super intense, political thriller, like Winter Soldier vibes for days. And I was really excited, even though I knew in the back of my mind, this movie's been cut to pieces and re-glued back together 15 times. I understand that was always a danger there, but I still had my hopes because what I was seeing looked good. And so going into it, I was hearing what people were saying about it. So I kind of figured I'd probably have some problems, but I was hoping I would like it. And I do like it. I think there's a lot of good things about it. I won't do any spoilers or anything like that. I'll just say I love Sam as Cap. I think that they did a good job of differentiating him and Steve without putting Steve down. They honored both of them really well in this movie, I thought. And and I also thought Harrison Ford was great. He could have very easily mailed this in. I don't feel like he did at all. And I think that some of the story is pretty okay. I think some of the other parts are pretty. You really see the seams where it was glued together. You really see, you really feel it in some ADR. Like some stuff, you're just like, wow, they really did just piece this together a lot. And so on that front, it's pretty disappointing, especially for a Captain America film, because honestly, like the first three to me are three of the best MCU movies, including the first one.
Thank you.
I love the first Captain America movie. I think it's underrated. But so comparing it to the others, as movies, it's tough because it definitely doesn't stand out like that. But yeah, I do think it's being hated on a lot. And I don't agree that it's like just complete dog crap. I think it's fine, but the MCU needs better than fine right now. So
more than fine.
Nice, dude. Very nice. I'm just more than bent on getting by right now.
Yeah, there it is.
But I liked it. Got some problems with it. I got a lot more hope for Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four coming up, but
I'm excited about Fantastic Four.
Yeah, dude, it looks so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise it's kind of just, my wife started Friends again, so I've been watching a little bit of that with her.
Nice.
My wife basically has Gilmore Girls and Friends, and I feel like there's one more, but she has like 3 shows that she watches kind of on loop throughout the year and like rewatches. And so she's on Friends now, and that's always fun. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing watching wise.
Nice. Not bad. Could be better. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could have been better.
You definitely, well, I mean, you've got Severance. That's definitely outweighing the
Severance
mid that you
is
watched.
Cinema. Like for
I
real,
really need to watch it. I saw an ad for it the other day, and I was like, "Dang it, that looks good."
It's legit. It doesn't disappoint, dude. Whew.
Unlike
Phil's thinking about it.
The MCU, am I right, fellas?
Listen. Keep the hating to a minimum, will ya?
Drew, you saw that.
I did see that. But I gotta talk about another film that I watched before that. So starting off the week, I watched Infernal Affairs, like I mentioned, which was awesome. And I know there's 2 sequels to them. Technically, one's not a reboot, one's a prequel. And I think the second one is supposed to be pretty good, and then the third one is not great, from what I was reading.
I think they sell the trilogy as like a combo on Criterion.
Really?
I think so.
That they probably do have it on there. That's really cool. I'd like to watch them at some point, but I'm not like itching to watch it because I think I'm like that doesn't really need a sequel. But from there I went to watch Son of Godzilla.
Son of Godzilla.
Yeah. Yes.
Some Christian movie. Okay.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah. Oh man, that right there is cinema actually, and I will die for Godzilla's son. He is the GOAT. He is the king of the monsters. Yeah. So after that, I saw Captain America: Brave New World in theaters, and the first trailer, thought it was fantastic. The second trailer, didn't like it as much, but I still thought it looked good. And there were some clips that were released online, kind of tempered my expectations. Then the reviews started kicking in, and I'm like, oh boy. But I was like, you know what? Maybe people are just like over like the MCU not like having like a big like, I don't know, just life-changing Marvel movie. So I was like, I'm gonna give it a chance. I'm just gonna go in like temperate expectations, but also willing to be pleasantly surprised. Unfortunately, I was not pleasantly surprised, and all of my worries came true and more. So that was unfortunate. But hey, I will still die on a hill to say that freaking Anthony Mackie is Captain America. I freaking love him as Captain America, even though he's not really given much to work with in this story. He doesn't really have much of an arc, I feel like. I think he's fantastic. So I definitely, if he's going to be the leader for the next Avengers, like, I'm down, because like the dynamic that he has with Torres, the new Falcon, you can see like just how like the potential of him being a leader for like younger superheroes or whatever. So I don't know. So I like that about it. Harrison Ford was phenomenal.
I liked his arc too, by the way.
Yes,
I didn't mention
yes.
like I liked Ross's arc. It was good.
That's the thing that I'm hearing most about it, is like the surprise like character is Ross.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I love. Ross is a great character already to me. I love him.
Same.
He is, yes. And what they do with his character, I think, is fantastic. I kind of wish they would have saved some of the stuff, even though we all kind of knew it was going in a certain direction. I wish they would have kind of saved some of his stuff for not like having them in the trailers and just keeping it in the film, because I think that would have hit just a little bit harder. Yeah. But they're both great. There's some good stuff in the film. Just, I think like overall it's mostly mediocre, and you can tell it was just butchered apart by rewrites and reshoots, and some of the reshoots that they have with Giancarlo Esposito's character. Giancarlo Esposito's character, he was wasted. I won't really go into spoilers, but man, it is a shame.
Stop casting great actors in these roles. Like, I'd honestly just rather them not, so that they could use them in like better, like more full roles. Like, because now I love him, and now he's kind of off the table.
Well,
it sounds like.
Well, no, I don't think so. Right?
Okay. Well,
I don't want to.
Okay, maybe he does. Okay, yeah. I don't know.
He was wasted in this movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, in my mind, I'm just thinking like Mads Mikkelsen and Doctor Strange kind of situation, where I'm like,
that would be comparable. I think maybe even more wasted.
Yeah. But so I don't know. He's just kind of there. It's whatever. It happens. And then to make that day even worse, you know what I watched that night because I was forced to watch it? I watched The Cinderella Story.
Is that Hilary Duff?
Yeah.
I watched that a couple of years ago. It's a movie, right?
Yeah, it's a movie. I mean, it's one of those like brainless movies that you put on, and there's a few like good laughs, and I mean, Hilary Duff is really charming, so there's that.
Is that Chad Michael Murray? Is it
Chad Michael Murray? I just think of
I can't remember actually. It is. No, yeah, it is Chad Michael Murray. And also Jennifer Coolidge is in it. So yeah.
Oh man,
that movie is actual cinema. And then I'll just kind of rapid fire the rest of my watches so we can kind of speed things up. But the next thing I watched, Mission Impossible. I rewatched the first one, and it's still amazing. I still have it at 4 stars, but I've been thinking about maybe bumping it up to 4.5 because like I don't really have many issues with it, and I love the like that is a political thriller. So I was like, man, this is the vibes that we should have got with Brave New World, because like it starts off kind of feeling that way, and then it just kind of plummets, and I hate that for it. But yeah, Mission Impossible is amazing, and I am so pumped for Final Reckoning.
What's the last great like political vibes kind of actiony movie?
That I've seen.
I can't really think of one.
We don't.
It's been a long while.
Does The Winter Soldier count?
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Yeah.
that feels like that'd be it.
To me, that was a great political thriller movie, and it's the best MCU movie. Which
I want
my opinion.
another thing like whenever the Bourne Identity first came out, it was like a non-silly kind of cool feeling. I want something like that again.
Yeah.
Me too.
I
would
agree.
love that too.
No more Gerard Butler freaking boring wannabe political thrillers that are just bad. Yeah. And then speaking of bad, or what you guys think is bad, but what I freaking love, I saw Goblet of Fire in theaters, which was my first time watching a Harry Potter film on the big screen. And
I would like to amend that a little bit. That's not fair. It's the worst Harry Potter movie. It's not bad. Like, it's not bad. It's just the worst. It's the worst Harry Potter movie.
I don't know. I disagree. Anyways, let's move on. I watched Destroy All Monsters, and I really liked it. Didn't love it, but definitely a step up from Son of Godzilla.
And then you watched.
And then before we got on this stream, I watched All Monsters Attack, and that is a fake movie. And our good old friend Curry, if he ends up joining in here at some point, I gotta say, dude, I know that it's a nostalgic film for you, but 3 stars is too much, brother. It is too much. Bump it down, give it the heart on Letterboxd.
I think Drew and I both have that thing at a 0.5 star.
Yes.
You're like, if I could go lower, I would.
Godzilla's son is still king of the monsters, though. And if you watch the American dub, he has like a Looney Tunes ass voice.
Godzilla says I should fight my own battles.
He literally talks like that. It's insane.
Damn, I gotta watch this.
No, it like, if you want a good laugh, like it's not even like boring bad in my opinion. It's just so bad that it's like fun to laugh at. Like,
it's laughably bad.
Yeah.
Like,
it's insane. But yeah, let's talk some real movies. All right, so When Harry Met Sally. This one's been on my watch list for a long while, and I can't believe that it finally took me until now to watch it. But I'm really glad to say that I finally did. And also Michael has talked about this movie a lot, like about doing it on the pod a lot. So it's
finally here.
It's a long time coming. So I'm pretty excited to chat about this one. But yeah, so for James and I, it was our first time watching it. So that's always fun when we get to like go in blind and if only one of us has seen it, just kind of being able to like, I don't know, guess what our thoughts will be, like what we rate it, is always fun. I still actually haven't rated it on Letterboxd, so
maybe this conversation will help.
Yeah, I'll be giving my like first thoughts. Nobody else has heard them yet on the stream tonight. But yeah, let's Michael, I want to hear from you first, since this is a favorite of yours.
Yeah. I can't remember the first time I saw this movie, but I've seen it many, many times. It's, to me, it is my favorite rom-com of all time. There's a lot of great ones. I'm a rom-com fan. Like, I actually really like even the silly, cheesy ones. I tend to like them. But I really, there's always been something about this one that was like, there's like a magic to it. There's a vibe to it. I think a lot of it has to do with just literally the music has a lot to do with just the selections of the jazzy songs that are throughout the movie. And then the vibes between that and the like how it's separated by time jumps and like interviews with older couples and like just them sharing their stories as we progress in Harry and Sally's lives, further down the road into different seasons of their lives. There's something about the way that this film is structured and put together and the vibes of it, as well as just, I think Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan are absolutely fabulous in this movie. They have a chemistry together. I feel like Meg Ryan just has chemistry with anyone. I feel like I say that when I'm talking about her and whoever she's starring with in X romantic comedy. But her and Billy Crystal are, to me, absolutely wonderful to watch as in their journey as from hating each other to finally loving each other at the end. And then as well as, I think it's hilarious. I think some of this movie is so funny. And the humor just hits with me. I was watching it last night by myself on the couch after my family had gone to sleep, and I was just laughing out loud. Like, but whether it's Carrie Fisher, which by the way, she's really funny too in this movie. Also, just Meg Ryan, I think, is underrated in her comedy chops. I think she's very, very funny in this movie. And of course, Billy Crystal, I think, James, I think you mentioned a while back, I'm excited to watch a Billy Crystal movie where he's actually like Billy Crystal rather than like an animated character, or his face is all painted, or like you don't see that very often. But this is truly like a Billy Crystal movie, and he's, to me, wonderful in it. I think he's actually acts his butt off in it. I think the dialogue is wonderful. Between, like, whenever, especially, like, I love the sections of the movies where Sally and Marie, Carrie Fisher's character, are hanging out together and just talking, and where Harry and Jess, the two guy friends, are hanging out together at the football game. And like, I just love the conversations that happen, and the dialogue is so like fast paced, but like it just hits well to me. And so and ultimately it's a sweet movie too, and I love it so much. It is my favorite rom-com. I have it at 4.5 stars. Some days I feel like maybe it's 5, but it's not quite there. But even if you ask me what a problem is I have with it, I don't know if I could find. We'll see when we're talking about it. We'll see if you guys present any to me. But I love this movie, and I'm so excited to hear what y'all think finally, because like y'all said, I've been waiting for this one.
Yeah, no, that's great, dude. And I will say, like, honestly, like, I feel like having a 5-star for this film isn't like an uncommon thing. Like, I was looking through Letterboxd, and there's a lot of people. There. There's a lot of people in my friends list, but there's also a lot of people just like, the first couple of reviews you got like 5 stars and 4.5 stars. So, it's like a well-loved like film for sure. So don't let us, I don't know, change your opinion.
I won't.
Yeah, because Jimmy Jam hates this movie.
Yeah, I know he does. No.
James, let's hear from you, dude.
So I was really excited going into this, just because I think we had brought it up in previous episodes, but rom-coms is a genre that I actually haven't seen a whole lot of, honestly, outside of like stupid Hallmark movies. Because I guess all of those really classify as rom-coms.
Yeah, they're like comedically bad. No, I'm just kidding.
That's my exact thought just then.
My Christmas Love is a very good. But anyways, in fact, I think Dan in Real Life as like one of the first like, or one of the few before this like legit rom-coms that I'd seen. And so it's I'll say this. The jokes are now that I hate this. I gave it 3.5 stars. And the thing is, for me, in our chats, I'm always championing like the play that we need to regain the honor of the 3.5 star, because that's literally like, if 2.5 is like, listen, for just as much good, I like just as much as I enjoyed it, there's just as much bad, whatever. 3 is like I'll lean positive. Overall, I like it. 3.5 has cleared that bar. You're not having to like ask, you're not having to twiddle your thumbs and sit on a fence. They're like, no, I know it's good. Like, this is good. So I did like this. And weirdly enough, I also like, I give movies 2 stars and 2.5 stars and then put in the review like, I freaking love this, can't wait to rewatch. Like, that's me with like Friday the 13th and Godzilla movies and stuff. Not that this is that by any means. But there's not always like a direct correlation between a star rating for me and how often I might want to rewatch it. And I think between Dan in Real Life and this, for me, I'm learning that I think there's a ceiling for how much I could just truly like love a rom-com. But I'm also feeling like they are good vibe movies though. Like, it ended and I'm like, you know what? I actually really could see myself rewatching this. Like, I probably will just choose like outside of the podcast just to rewatch this, you know, probably throw it on sometime again next year. And, you know, do the same with Dan in Real Life once we get like fall again.
All vibes, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah. So I liked it. One of my favorite things is what you brought up. I like the way it's structured. I really like the whole, you know, initial meeting 5 years later. Where are they in their life now? 5 years later, where are they again? And then really letting the narrative kind of take off from that point. I like a lot. Just because, I don't know, letting the main part of the narrative start, like not letting that start until they've already got some weird baggage with each other, I thought was like really well done. I love all the like the interviews sprinkled throughout. And I also really like the music a lot too. Like, it's just, it gives the whole thing like a classy sense where you're like, I'm watching
exactly what I think. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, like, it makes you feel like, dude, I'm watching. I'm not just like, this isn't a guilty pleasure kind of thing of like, I know it's so cheesy and dumb, but it's like, no, you're watching a real movie. Like, it says Rob Reiner at the beginning. All right, Rob Reiner makes real movies. Yes, it sounds like a real movie. It looks like a real movie. Like, look at the backgrounds. This movie looks like a real movie. Yeah. And so just good vibes, cool structure. Obviously, like, good performances. So yeah, all around, like, I definitely enjoyed it. I also really liked the ending. I liked their, like, his last kind of plea to her. I thought, like, you get some really good lines in that moment. So I think the main thing for me is there was just a sense where I'm like, I don't know that I would actually want to be any of these people's friend. Like, it's entertaining to watch, but every now and then it feels like I'm like, more than anything, more than a hug, I think Harry needs somebody to punch him in the face every now and then.
100%,
like,
dude.
There are times where I'm like, you're an awful human. Like, you're awful. So overall, and I think, you know, I made the comment about like the Hallmark stuff. Like, the truth of the matter is, as bad as I know like 98% of those movies are, there is like the 65-year-old like man, like sentimental man in me that's like, this is so sweet, and like, look at how nice this is. And like, whenever like 80% of the dialogue is just Billy Crystal saying every man wants to have sex with every woman. I've had this much sex. How much sex have you had? Have you had sex recently? I've had all of this sex before. But I'm like, where's my sweet sentimental? Like, so there's
Mike Wazowski.
Yeah. You and me and you. I was waiting for him to sing that. I was like, that would really take this up at least half a star if he sang that to Sally.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, I definitely like it. I think it's obviously, like, it's really well made, good writing and everything. I think some of it just comes down to vibes of like, there are times where I'm like, oh, man, sometimes I'm really annoyed with all of these people, and I'm not quite having like the charming fun time. But
well, yeah, because Carrie Fisher to me is hilarious. It's you know what's hilarious? What you're just saying is the exact reason why I haven't finished Arrested Development. Like, it's hilarious. Like every time I do sit down to watch it, I'm like, this might be the funniest show ever. Like, this is really funny. I can only handle so much of this family because they're all awful. They're terrible people, every one of them. And honestly, same with a show like Seinfeld. Like, those people are really not, I would not want to be any of their friends. They're awful. But
same with the show like Friends. Am I right?
Now watch your mouth. No,
what about a show like Always Sunny?
Yeah, well, I've heard that about that show as well. I have not seen it myself.
Always Sunny is different though, right? Like,
but I think you're right with this. I think, like, I mean, Carrie Fisher's hilarious to me, but she's always like trying to get men to leave their wives, and like, and she's sad when they don't. And you know, Billy Crystal, like you said, he's just like sleeping with half the city, and his friend.
She had a great line for him too, though. Whenever she's like, "You've slept with half New York. You're about to like pack up and leave just to find somebody you haven't slept with."
Yeah, I always love that. I actually think the only reason she would be tough to hang out with is because she is so, like they talk about in the movie, so high maintenance. But like every time she orders food, but like she doesn't have the bad person syndrome that the rest of them tend to have. But no, I see what you mean though. I definitely get what you mean. I think this movie potentially is a little bit I'm trying to think of the right way to say it, but I think it does have a little bit of a shield from that for me, because I've kind of grown up with it. So it's almost like, even though I'm like, yeah, that's terrible, but I also kind of love it. I also love him, you know? So, but.
Well, and I even thought that, like, in my mind, I'm like, you know what, maybe this has room to grow on rewatches whenever I'm like,
I think it does too.
Just the characters. Once I have more time with the characters and who they are, and especially knowing like where they end up and all of that.
Yeah. No, those are great thoughts. And before I kind of like give my like initial like reaction of the film, I wanted to like bring up like James made like a good point of like, you know, the characters not being like, you know, the best people, and like having a lot of qualities about them that you dislike and you like don't want to hang out with them. I think there's like a difference between, you know, us watching like a drama or like a full-blown drama, or like, you know, like, I don't know, an action film, like whatever other genre where you're following you know, a character that is unlikable or that is not a good person, you know, like X, Y, and Z. I think it's different when you're watching something like that and when you're watching a comedy, when like comedies, you know, are kind of built around like having just like you know, like a good vibe to them. And so I think it would be fair to be like, oh, you know, like I can't really get past this because like I just don't exactly love the characters. Especially if there isn't like growth in those characters. So I think like a comedy compared to like a drama or something like that, like I think that would like have a factor in how you would like rate a comedy film. At least like, I don't know, that's kind of how I feel about it. But yeah, so I actually kind of loved like a lot about this movie. But there are a few things that I want to talk about like in a little while that have kind of, I don't know, like I can't really like fully decide like where I'm at in terms of rating for the film. But overall, like I loved a lot about this. It is a real movie. Like there's a lot of shots in the film where I was like, oh, okay, for a rom-com, like this goes really hard.
I love all the phone stuff.
Yes,
the phone stuff is really cool.
all the stuff with the phone.
When the scene where you've got like the one couple in bed, but each has their own.
All of those split screens were really cool.
Or Meg Ryan sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're good.
Her turning her light. It was a little thing, but her turning her light off and going to bed like sooner than Billy Crystal does, so that you just have like 30 seconds of half a black screen just to highlight that, like, yeah, she's going to bed and he still can't sleep
and he's moaning.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just thought that was cool that we're going to show like half of a black screen for like 30 seconds just to like emphasize the fact that like he's the one who can't fall asleep.
Yeah, there's like just some really like interesting creative choices that made it feel like a real movie. And it's like, you know, they had like a clear vision when they were making those creative decisions. But like there's shots like when they're in the museum, there's this really cool shot. It's like a really wide angle, or a really wide shot, and you kind of just see their silhouettes. And I was like, all right, dude, I've never seen this in a rom-com before, so this goes hard. And then like also just the way that they visualized Harry's like depression that he had for a while. Like I really like that. Like, you know, when he's still like flipping through the TV channels in the split screen part, or when like his like apartment is just empty, there's like nothing in there. I don't know, there's just like some really cool stuff with the direction and the cinematography that I really appreciated. And I think like the writing is really strong, especially the dialogue. I'm a huge fan of just like really high energy dialogue that has a lot of words like in each line. And I wasn't really expecting this movie to be like that, because I don't know, when I think of rom-coms, I don't really think of like just these long like monologues or just like this really like fast-paced dialogue that you would hear in, I don't know, maybe like a more serious drama. Or you like the best comparison that I actually have to it is like kind of like Sorkin. Like I feel like a lot of his dialogue is like that like it's got like this really interesting like almost fast-paced
rhythm.
Yeah, there's a rhythm to it, and like they'll say like 50 words per line, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, it just I love those vibes, and it has like in a lot of ways it has like an extra sense of reality to it for me, especially because they're like in New York and stuff, and like when you're in these big cities, like it's so chaotic. So I don't know, it just kind of like really captured those vibes for me. And I loved the chemistry between Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal. I love that they're like polar opposites. I was reading some Letterboxd reviews, and some people were complaining about Billy Crystal's performance, and like I didn't really get the complaints. They were like, it feels like he's like, I don't know, like doing a bit every time he speaks, or like he's trying too hard. And I'm like, that's kind of like his character though. Like he's always like just overcompensating with like everything he says, I feel like. And I like that. It makes him his character. So I don't know.
A scene that I thought,
oh good,
like on that subject of just like him doing bits and stuff, like of just like, because that's who he is. Like I think it's the same scene that with that wide shot that you're talking about, where they're at the museum and he's doing like, I have decided that for the rest of the day, like when like
it can buy.
Yeah. I really like that scene, like whenever, because like I've done this where like if I'm ever having to say something hard, whether it's like an apology or like, man, I don't know how this is going to go over well, or just something you're nervous to say or ask, you like put on like a voice or an accent to almost like soften the reaction.
Make it more like almost a more chewable thing that you're almost like
a more chewable
digestible
thing, and
softening the mood.
Softening it, and I feel like it's an attempt to like artificially lower the stakes,
Yeah.
It's like, well, what does it matter what you're gonna do? Like, I asked it in a silly voice anyways, so like it's inherently tries to bring the seriousness of things down because you're kind of too afraid to like just be out there. And so whenever like when he's asking her out to dinner and he's like, would you like to go to, and she like tries to respond. It's like, no, I'm asking you, would you like, I don't know. I thought that was like a really real moment, like a really revealing for his character where like when it comes to something that he actually cares about, he kind of has to like work through a bit just to ask it.
Yeah. It's like almost like a little bit of awkwardness, or like maybe like he's doing that because he's like anxious, and yeah, like there's a lot of subtleties in their performances where like these little quirks that the characters have that really make them believable for me. And I personally, just in a lot of my experience with rom-coms, I don't see that level of depth to the characters. So I don't know, like overall there's just a lot of things that I really love about this, and I understand now why people love it so much. And like, I don't know, I guess one other like quick thought that I had before we get a little bit deeper into the discussion, I was not expecting the structure of this film at all. I didn't know that it was going to take place over these like large like gaps of time.
Yeah.
And I had no clue about the interviews with like all the different couples, and I thought that was brilliant. And I like did some research on that, and all of them were inspired by real life couples, which I thought was amazing. So
I was watching bonus features, and I think I remember them saying that they actually tried it with the actual couples first, and it just didn't quite work. So they did actors based on those couples instead.
Yeah.
And I think that was a good call because these couples are all so adorable. I love them so much.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, it was just interesting, like hearing all these different stories of like how they got together. And like I think my favorite one was one of the couples. They were like, we were born 7 days like apart in the same hospital, and we worked in the same building, and blah 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 blah. And then all of a sudden we met like years later in Chicago, and he was like, I followed her all the way up like 9 extra floors just to talk to her. And I was just like,
9 extra floors.
Yeah, that part was so sweet. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I love them.
Yeah.
I love the one where they were both like talking their own story the whole
I think that's
time.
that one, right? Where they're like,
Is it that one?
I think so, because he's like, and she worked at blah blah blah, and she's like, I was doing
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was
Yeah.
I'm choosing to believe
so
that's a
funny.
real couple and not actors because I love them.
Yeah,
Like
I
how
love them
excited
so
they
much.
were reciting that, and like that extra like 9 extra. So just the way she looks at her, you're like, oh, these people.
And then there's the one couple. There's the guy like they were both married and then they divorced, and then the guy married another girl and got divorced, and then married another girl and got divorced, and then they met up again years later, and now they're married again. I was like,
crazy.
This guy.
It's so funny.
Anyone.
Yeah, it's really funny, but like I don't know, I just loved how it wasn't like the same like bit every time with the couples. Like it didn't feel like they were trying to just like really hone in on like we all had like these perfect marriages, or like we all got together perfectly. It's like some of them are messy, some of them are arranged, some of them it took forever to find each other. And like I love the variety in that.
Yeah. And then having Harry and Sally do the one at the very end.
Yes. That was great.
Excellent way to bookend everything. I loved it.
Yeah. Because before it's just like a sweet but arbitrary kind of like, wouldn't it be neat and funny if we interjected these? But to like tie it with them at the end, it's like,
yeah,
it pulls it all together a little bit more.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Now I just want to know who's interviewing them.
Rob Reiner.
Yeah. Okay, so let's I guess let's talk a little bit more about like the characters and performances themselves. Cuz I don't know, I have some interesting things to say about that like kind of tie into
why don't you just say what you don't
myself.
Why don't you just say what you don't like?
I'll say like that.
That was beautiful. Duet there.
I love
y'all were like in perfect unison there. Yeah, I guess let's go ahead and jump into what I'm kind of conflicted on. So actually, like what I'm conflicted on is more to do with Rob Reiner. Okay, I kind of love the ending. Don't get me wrong. But I'm really conflicted on it because the whole movie, like, or from the start of the film, you hear it from Billy Crystal's character himself that you know, people like from opposite sexes cannot be friends. It's just it's impossible, right? And it really feels like, and as I read more into the film, that Rob Reiner like actually believed that, and like he even has said it in like an interview or something like that, or maybe like a behind the scenes for the film.
Harry was written largely based on Rob.
Yeah, I know that, like, I know it was based on like, you know, like it's in a way like semi-autobiographical. And I don't know, I don't know how I felt about him doubling down on that in the end, because it kind of felt like, I don't know, halfway through the film that and then like even after, you know, they like sleep with each other and everything, it kind of feels like that they're not going to go in that direction. And I kind of them like getting back together and falling in love, and like I don't know, I kind of like, as sweet as the ending is, I kind of like the idea of it ending where they don't get together. I know that like might make it like a little bit, you know, sad and everything, but like I don't know, I think it would have been just really interesting to see them not get together and still be friends, you know. Because I don't know, like I don't love that the message of the film, like I'm not saying like this is the like definitive message of the film, but like when I watched it, I kind of felt like, man, like Rob Reiner just like really, he was like really adamant on like, you're not allowed to be friends, like it can't happen. And I didn't really like vibe with that. So that's like part of like where my confliction has come from, because like I keep thinking about that and I'm like, I don't have anything wrong with the ending of the film. I love the ending, but I don't know if I like what the film is saying. I like the part of it that, you know, that love finds a way, you know, like it's not it's not it's not just like, you know, it's like all the different couples that are interviewed, right? Like it can happen this way, it can happen that way, it can happen this way. I like that. I love that aspect of it, but I don't know, I'm just really conflicted on that. So I'd like to hear what you guys think about that, because I don't really know. I think like just talking through that with y'all will kind of help me.
No, do you have something? I don't know. I'm trying to think of the best way to say.
I think I don't know. It's one of those things where it's not the message I want every movie saying. But I think it's one where it's kind of interesting if at least one movie comes out and says it. Where it's like, I don't know that I want everybody, like, I don't think this needs to be the philosophy and like motto of everybody.
Right.
But I kind of, it feels like, I don't want to be like dramatic enough to be like, it's just so bold. But like, I mean, this thesis about like men and women is given from Harry at his like sleaziest, and it does feel, I don't know, it does feel kind of bold to let him say that at his sleaziest, and then for the movie to like to acknowledge, be like, yeah, he's pretty sleazy, I get it, but I'm gonna stick to my guns on what he says. I don't know, like, it feels like, again, not that it's what I want all movies saying, but for one movie to be like, we tiptoe too much around the tension that's actually going to be there, all in the name of like, no, guy, girl, friends are friends, whatever. And like, I don't know, I think a lot of people have probably experienced in friend groups where it's like, on paper, that's like that's the ideal. And then it's like, well, dang it, maybe this person does like this person, and that tension is going to be there, but it's never going to be acknowledged because we've got this sense of like, no, it does not have to be that way. And the thing, like, because I'm coming, out, like, I'm coming a generation, after when Harry Met Sally. What's funny is I've heard this quote from this movie all the time, about like, no, men and women cannot be friends. And so I don't know. It feels like it's okay for one movie to come out and be like, we all do a little bit of lying to ourselves if we're gonna act like that tension is not gonna be there in some way, and that we're just kind of living in this, utopia of no. It's not going to affect friends and friend groups that way. So I don't know. I'm kind of okay. And then it also being couched within a rom-com where the understanding is it is going to happen. And I do think we are given like both sets of, like, they both try to set their friends up with the other, and it doesn't work, So it's like, well, here's an instance of like two people who are like, Billy Crystal says no, or at the beginning when he's like, no, every, like, guys are always going to want to have sex with him, and then she's like, oh, so you're saying it's only if they're attracted? He's like, no, they'll still want to. Just the way he says that really did make me laugh. Yeah. So like we've got, I don't know, it feels like between them kind of like not working out with the friends, and it all kind of works specifically within this movie in a way that I'm kind of okay with, where if anything, it feels like it's the one voice in a sea of rom-coms. It's just kind of like the cautious person going like, be careful, like, don't be too naive. People are going to catch feelings sometimes, like in ways that you might not expect, or think that like that's not going to happen in a friend group kind of thing. So
yeah, I think the way the movie says it is very frank, it's very blunt, and it's like almost offensive, like the way that it's like, well, no, a guy and a girl can't be friends because they'll want to have sex together, like whatever, like, or at least the guy will want to have sex with the girl. Like, that's very a kind of a really in your face way to say it, but like kind of like what James was alluding to, like I feel like if we're all honest with ourselves, we all have had situations in our lives, friendship circles where even if it wasn't, if it wasn't, I want to have sex with that girl. It was at least like this. There's a sexual tension. There is an attraction, and if you be like even friendships that I've had in the past, where it started off initially as, yeah, we're just great friends. I mean, there are at least a good bit of them where I eventually was like, crap, I think I have feelings. Like that does happen a lot. And so even if you wanted to like, you know, tone it down a little bit, I think there's some truth nuggets in there, even if it's like, well, yeah, but that's not a rule we need to live by, especially nowadays. Like, yeah, I mean, I know obviously what he's saying is a bit ridiculous at times, but like, I do think that it's coming from a place like, even like what you said, Drew, like Rob Reiner is just like, that's what he believes. Like he believes it from his experiences. He lived it. Everyone shouldn't believe that, but he does. And if he does, and if this character is very much based off of him, I'm okay with it for this movie. And honestly, like I also like how it works with his character, because at the beginning is when you hear him say that. And even the next jump in years where they run into each other at the airport, and he like, she like brings up that he said that, he's like, no, I don't think I would say that. And he was like, actually, yeah, like he would. So he's kind of evolving a little bit, but then he starts to think about it and he goes back. And then as the movie goes on and they have life experiences apart, and then they come together again, they develop a true real friendship that there is no secondary motivation for either one of them other than, I truly care about this person as a friend, as they're dating other people and stuff like that. But eventually that still comes to pass a little, right? That still does come to pass. And I'm okay with it happening in this movie. I can also see a version of this movie where they don't get together and they stay friends, and me really loving that ending. I can totally see that. In fact, it may even be, which is probably what one thing that you're probably thinking, it might even be the more artistic choice to go that way. And honestly, I think it would have fit the film, because of how it is. This rom-com is not like really any other rom-com I've seen. It's a very unique rom-com. And so if they have this and they kind of get you thinking, oh, they're definitely going to get together eventually, and then they pull the rug out from under at the end, it's like, no, they stayed friends. Isn't that cool? Like that could have been a cool choice. But I kind of also love that they got together, and it's doubled up with, I love Billy Crystal. I think James brought it up. I love his little monologue to her, like saying everything he loves about her that he thinks is ridiculous, but he still loves her. Like all those little things. I think it was just I think that, and by the way, all those things that he learned in friendship, not in relationship, right?
Yeah.
I just really, there's something about it. It kind of works really beautifully in both ways. So
okay, this is why, like, I was really excited for the discussion, because I actually do know, I think I do know my rating now. I think like talking about that like really helped me, because like the more I thought about it with what you guys were saying, I'm like, okay. So there's a few things I should have mentioned, that even if I don't fully James is looking at
What is
something off in
Okay,
space. Bro.
sorry. I did not think about how ridiculous. To the left of me on my wall, I've got a 101 classic movie quotes, and I was trying to find it because I know one of these quotes.
Okay.
I've been listening. I've been listening the whole time. Drew's talking about his. I haven't
I
spaced
thought
out.
bro like saw like a spider on the wall.
Bro,
or
it looks like
something.
there's like a bird in the corner of your room or something, and you're just like, what is this?
It walked on my pillow. But I was almost positive that one of these 101 quotes is I realized that when you meet the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as it can. Or however.
Yeah, it's
Like,
great.
I think that's on there. I was just trying to find it. Sorry.
Oh,
You were saying talking through it, a movie doesn't have to.
Yeah, so like talking through that definitely helped me. I should have said before I mentioned all of my like conflictions. I like when directors and when writers like stick to their guns on like their own like beliefs, because like it doesn't feel like a cop out. You know, it feels very honest, even if I disagree with what they're trying to say, which is why like I was saying like I do actually like love a lot about the ending, like a lot about the film, but like I just don't know if I fully agree with it. But like as you guys are talking through it, I kind of thought about it. I'm like, you guys are right that like it kind of works for this film, because when we get to the end, like I didn't really think about it until Michael said it, but when we get to the end and he is like professing his love, he's listing off all the things that he learned about her as a friend. And I think that works in the way of like they've had this really long friendship and they went a long period of time where there was no ulterior motive. He just wanted to be friends with her, or like vice versa, right? And then we get to that point and he realizes, you know, after all of this time that they've been friends, after him getting married and getting divorced, after both of them dating different people, he's like what the heck, like I love spending time with her, and there's like no one else that I'd rather like live the rest of my life with. And like I think that could have definitely worked if they were just friends, like. And I think that then in the 80s, if it ended in the way where they just stayed friends, I think that would have been unreal, because like he just didn't see that then.
You know, it would have been really funny if they mimicked the Casablanca ending and found her own Victor Laszlo. And you
that
know,
would be,
because that thread runs through the whole thing.
Yeah, it'd be full, because she's like
point.
she's like proven right in her argument at the beginning. She's like, yeah, I'd get on the plane.
Yeah, but I think that would have worked excellently in the 80s. I think today, I feel like we see stuff like that a little bit more often. Spoiler alert for La La Land.
I was literally gonna say we have our La La Land.
Yeah, like we do have our La La
our
Land.
heading.
Which La La Land, what an ending, what a film, what an ending. And hey, we're gonna talk about it next week. But
so pumped.
yeah, same. that is a film like we really cannot forget about talking about the music.
We would never. I won't let it happen.
No. But yeah, I don't know. Like I think talking through that like definitely helps me, like, I don't know, vibe with the film a little bit more. Yeah.
You know, I think, like, so we've said the phrase "just friends" a lot. There's a stupid, dumb,
terrible,
but I still like it a lot. Ryan Reynolds Christmas rom-com called "Just Friends" with Ryan Reynolds and Anna Faris. Terrible, but it's like it's one of those ones where I caught it at the age of like, yeah, this is funny. And now on rewatches, I'm like, nah, I'm still laughing.
I don't like Anna Faris very much.
See, I grew up with like watching the Scream movies, so I like Anna Faris. But anyways, I just bring it up to say like that is just one. I mean, that's the easiest go to because the movie's called Just Friends. But there's a lot of we see the trope quite a bit of like, I mean, Drew, it's the trope of My Christmas Love, which I did get you to watch, where it's like her, like the guy and his semi boss who are like, friends for years, and it like they are the ones who end up together. We see that trope quite a bit of like two friends, a guy and a girl, and like if only they could see that they're the one, but like they're one of them. It's always at least one of them, or seeing other people and whatnot. And the idea has always become it's like it's that person that you've been really, really good friends with this whole time that this is going to end up happening with. And so part of it feels like Rob Reiner being like, we like other movies have been saying what I'm saying right now in everything but words for like movie after movie after movie. We keep making movies about two people who are just friends with an understanding that they are just friends. And in almost all of these movies, we get to a point to where like the friendship and the attraction make like the eventual romance unavoidable. Like we tell that story again and again and again. And I just happen to finally make a character say, you want to know why that happens? So it does. I don't know.
Good point.
I kind of like tip my hat to him for being like, I'm cutting to the chase. This is why we keep telling the same story again and again.
I like that. That's actually a great point.
And I definitely feel like it comes across as like a lot more earnest from Rob Reiner, because like I said, like he definitely based a lot of this off of his own like values and beliefs, but like he also wrote like they wrote a lot of this based on like real life experiences that himself and the writer had. So it definitely like comes across as more earnest, where like there's a lot of rom-coms where like, yeah, they're cute and funny and blah blah blah, but and like feel good and all this stuff, but it's not really coming from an honest place. So I definitely like I really do appreciate that this film is just honest in the way that it's portraying this story.
I agree. I do want to mention too, I always have to bring up the music at some point. This movie is kind of weird because it doesn't really have a score. Even on IMDb, if you look up composer, there's not a composer. There's a music department, and it is led by there are special musical performances and arrangements by Harry Connick Jr.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, well, I didn't know that.
Yep. And then there's like, music adapter and music arranger Mark Shaman, and then there's like orchestrator and all that. But like Harry Connick Jr. had a lot to do with just arranging the music of this movie, and I think they used music that isn't original, but they arranged it in ways that all felt super cohesive, almost like a score. And like it really is such a key to why this movie, James, you said it at the beginning, I've said the exact same thing for years. There's something classy about this movie. There's a vibe that just oozes class, and it is at least 50% the music. And it's just interesting because it's not like, your Hans Zimmer rom-com scores. It's not which are great. The Holiday is still one of my favorites ever.
Yes.
But like, this is just so interesting because there's so much of this movie where it's almost like the music is dialogue, because it moves so quick and there's no music behind it. Like there's no actual music behind it. And it's just them talking. Like there's so many scenes where that's what it is. So it's a little bit more dry than we're kind of used to nowadays, but I find it really, really refreshing. And then on transitions where there is music, it's this classy, jazzy, you know, really great arrangements by Harry Connick Jr. So I wanted to give a shout out because not only is he great in Independence Day, but he's also an incredible musician, and that's really what he's incredible at. But
nice.
I don't know if y'all have seen this. Drew, you may have, I don't know, but there is this video online where he is doing a show somewhere and he's playing a song. Jr.? Yes, Harry Connick Jr. And he the crowd like gets off beat clapping, like almost like a beat behind him. Like he wants them to be on clapping on 2 and 4, like 1,
and
2.
He throws a chair
4.
at all of their heads.
Exactly. No, but they're clapping on 1 and 3. It's like the worst thing. It's one of my least favorite things is when people clap on 1 and 3 instead of 2 and 4. So the crowd is clapping then, and he really needs them to be clapping on 2 and 4. So he adds a measure. He adds a beat to a measure of the song he's playing, and he fixes it. They end up on 2 and 4. And it's just like, that is a tiny thing for me where I was like, okay, this guy is a genius. That is only something an incredible musician can do. And so I wanted to give some big, that had nothing to do with this movie, but it's Harry Connick Jr. is just so good. And I wanted to give him props because like seriously, the vibes of this movie, he's half of it for real.
Yeah.
I know him as a judge on American Idol.
That's heat.
Interesting.
Shout out American Idol.
Hey, any of those guests that got to work with him, lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, I also I can't remember if I put it in the group chat or if I put it like in our group chat or if I put it in the larger like cinema group chat, but I think I remember mentioning something about the vibes of the intro track, and I just love that like classic jazz. I love also like another thing, I love the font that they used for the text, because there's like a lot of films. I mean, it still happens.
You think it's better than if they went like all swirly written out?
There's just like a lot of films that like, I don't know, in the 80s, 90s, and I mean even still today, but like where the text is just like not it. Like they would just like pick the most default thing ever. But like when I saw the text appear, I was like, dude, why do I feel like I'm watching The Godfather right now? Like it had like this very like he said, like classy, almost like noir or like crime thriller, I don't know, mafia style like font to it, and just that and the music, I was like, man, I know I'm in for an actual movie.
Well, it's super timeless. Like even something I love that choice down to the font. Like like you were saying, some movies have choices where it's like it actually dates the movie. Like, oh wow, they use that font. Okay, so this must have been in the 80s. Or something.
I love The Shining, obviously, but man, that font,
dude, that font is the most like high school project. Like,
But yeah, like this one, even I know, like I don't care about fonts for the most part, but like I even noticed, I was like, that looks good. Like, and I love that it's just a black screen with that font and jazz behind it. It's not your typical thing.
Cool intro.
Yeah, it's not the typical thing where it's like, you know, B-roll over like shots of New York or Chicago College, wherever they were at or whatever. It's not just like the normal thing that they would do. It's just this,
because that's absolutely what this movie normally would do from you know, like from a different director or something.
Yeah, and then it would have like a what would have been current music back then. It would have had a pop song from that era.
Yeah. Which like it came out in '89. You'd think that they would have had a bunch of like '80s hits in it.
But think
nope.
about the music. Think about this movie with '80s hits all over the place.
No.
I'm actually there.
Different movie.
I would still love it, but like I love the song choices. I love early on in the film we get Louis Armstrong.
Yeah,
that goes hard.
Another thing that automatically classes up your movie.
It does
exactly.
Instantly a full. It's a full star grade higher.
Yep, that means you got to bump it up to a 4.5. Jimmy Jam.
Well, I factored that. Oh no, I didn't factor that in because it wouldn't have been a 2.5 for me without that. But
yeah.
And Drew, is there any other issues you had, or is that it?
I feel like that's really it for me, honestly.
So it's a 5-star then.
Yep, it's a 5-star. No,
even I didn't do that. Sorry.
Yeah, but honestly, like I said at the start, like a lot of people have it at that, and honestly, I wouldn't blame you because I do think it's really good, and I'm with James. Like, I definitely want to rewatch this. I'll see myself rewatching this, like at the very least yearly.
Yeah.
Because the vibes are there. Like, yeah, you get annoyed at Billy Crystal a lot, and he definitely warrants a punch in the face. And there's also some like sad moments too. But like for the most part, it is really good vibes. Like, I really enjoy their dynamic together and just seeing them hang out. The deli scene is just as iconic as I've known it to be.
Okay, good. I was literally going to ask next. Was that scene as iconic as it's been hyped up for for so long?
100%. And like definitely don't want to be watching that like
your mom
you want to make sure that everybody's in the room like already watching it, so that way they don't just like hear that like out of context. I was watching the movie with headphones on, so I was good. I was covered on that. But
line, and Slasher Fred actually said it. It's the line at the end makes it all so it just ties it all together perfectly with comedy. But that line, I'll have what she's having. That's Rob Reiner's mom, which is so funny. But it's also just that line. How many times have you heard that line just referenced in other things? It's just that's one of those like
the Super Bowl commercial.
I was about to say they literally did this.
They literally did
Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah, but I just it never ceases to amaze me how committed Meg Ryan is to that bit. And then at the end, she just is like, and then she just keeps eating. It is so funny.
And honestly, like at first I thought like it was going to take me out of the film a little bit because I'm like, nobody's like reacting. But even though they like make the joke of like, I'll have what she's having, and like that could almost not like work for me, it kind of works for me. And like I think the fact that they're in New York really sells it on like everyone in New York's seen some stuff, they've seen some crazy people. So like maybe it just wasn't like high enough on that level of crazy,
I do love that slowly but surely, like every person in the diner is just like turning their head at the very like. And
they definitely acknowledge it, but it's not like she's not like getting thrown out of the like cafe.
I think because everybody's just like so stunned by the awkwardness of like,
oh yeah,
like nobody wants to be the first person to say something about it.
This also is a different scene. This one's actually right at the beginning, but it does one of my favorite movie tropes to make fun of. Is when you walk into a restaurant and you yell something really awkward and the music stops and everyone looks at you, and then and then you keep walking, and then the music magically turns back on randomly. They do that at the beginning of the movie where she's like, "I'll have you know that I've had plenty of good sex," and the music just stops, and you're like, and then the music keeps going. I just think it's such a funny trope in movies when they do that, where the music even just stops, not just the people.
Yeah.
It was only missing that record scratch.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh goodness.
I think in terms of like funny bits, I think that the bit that got me the most, I took a video of it and sent it to Michael last night while I was watching it. To me, it was the part in the movie that got me the most, where they're at the football game and Billy Crystal is like pouring his heart out to his friend, and he's like, "But it's actually worse than that. She's cheating on me," and his friend just goes, "Oh man!" But there's a wave going on at the game, and so he says this, and it's like he's like, "Oh man!" And they get up and they do the wave, and they sit back down. So now I'm going through a divorce. It's just like they continue to have the most like serious, most like so much gravity to this, like life-changing stuff, and every time the wave comes around they get up and go with it, and
because it comes back around like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
Yeah, so that bit really got me.
It's genuinely funny, but again, like it's one of those things that like doesn't take me out of like the gravity of the film.
Yeah.
Like
because it is a comedy, like,
yeah.
It's so funny. That's one of the things the movie does so well to me. Like these are funny things that are happening, but it's not just like it doesn't feel like a joke with a punchline. It's just like there's actually real talk happening, like real stuff. Like he's pouring out his soul right now. Like he's at an all-time low. And every time the wave comes around, they are like, I don't know if they're like Giants fans or like what, I don't know what they are, but like they're like respectful enough of the of the culture of football,
the integrity of the wave,
that even though this is happening and they're talking about it, they stand up every time and just keep talking as if nothing had happened. It's perfect the way that they execute it so well because his face doesn't change at all.
Yeah, it's so serious.
It's so funny. For me, one of my favorite, it's not a bit at all. It's really more of a performance thing. Meg Ryan, when she finally has the moment when Joe, her ex, calls her and tells her that he is getting married to someone else. When she finally breaks that, because she's had this wall up, she's had this guard up, like she hasn't let herself get to, like she's been saying the whole time, I honestly don't miss him. Well, this happens and she finally breaks. That scene where Billy Crystal comes over, and it's the scene where they eventually do have sex, but her crying and like losing it is both really like heartfelt and beautifully done and also hilarious. Like there's some really funny stuff in there. Like when she's like, "Oh, I'm difficult." Like with the way she says that and like the way that there's something really, really charming about how there's multiple, I'm trying to remember some of the other lines, but like the way that she performs that scene is just this great mix of drama and like really heartfelt stuff mixed with like, I'm telling you, she's just so funny to me. I think that her comedy chops are really, really underrated. She does some stuff in there that just make me laugh every time. And I'm not laughing at her in a bad way. I'm laughing because how am I feeling the things she wants me to feel right now? But also like I'm laughing at this because she's so funny. Like,
I love the part where in that same scene where she's like, I need a Kleenex or tissue. I don't remember what she says exactly. And then she like throws the one that she has in her hand and just throws it like on the floor.
And Billy Crystal's just holding the box up.
Yeah.
She just keeps taking them.
Yeah. It's like she's delivering like a really serious performance there, but at the same time, just like effortless. Oh man, I can't talk. Effortless. Man,
You
dude.
can't say this word effortlessly.
Exactly. I don't know why. Like, I've
effortlessly.
never had a problem saying that before. But just like, yeah, just going between the two tones perfectly.
With that said, that was one scene though. I do kind of wish it was more dramatic, just for me personally.
Oh man, I love it as is.
Mitch in the comments said today, Junior. It to me it felt like the kind of theatrical crying a little bit, so it didn't fully work to me. But I will say, just so that I'm not like too negative on it, there is a line in that scene. No, it feels like
I'm kidding.
Like, I don't know. But there was one line within it though that like I did think was really funny when she's like, "And I'm gonna be 40." It's like, when? Someday.
Somebody's like, what, in 8 years?
Yeah, like, that just because like in my mind I'm like, wait, no, I'm pretty sure like the movie established that she's like early 30s right now. So just the delivery of that really did get me, where it's like, when?
That is
someday.
That's one of my lines. That's one of the lines that I was trying to remember for sure. That's so funny.
Yeah.
No, but there's a part in there where she's like, where she comes to the realization that, he wanted to get married, but not to her. When she comes to the realization and says that, there's some, I think her performance is fantastic there, and it's really heartfelt.
I think, I guess for me, I think there are moments where the performance that I want from the scene comes out. And I think that's one of the moments where she finally gets to say, like whenever he's like, if you could take him back right now, would you? She's like, no. And then she finally says, but why didn't he want to marry me? Like, I think that moment is great, but I and it may just be like my dumb brain. It could be more of a disconnect on my part than the movie.
I think it definitely is.
It felt like there was a bit of like the kind of TV show or general just kind of rom-com thing of like they're really open mouth and everything's doing this, but like there's no real tears. There's no real. It felt like a thing where like, this is what you do when you're supposed to sound sad. That was my Jerry Seinfeld impression, actually.
That was pretty good, actually.
What's up with airliner food? But anyways, it just, so like part of it read like the kind of like comedy show kind of like loud open mouth, but no real tears, like kind of sadness thing. But with the caveat that there are those moments where like she gets some particular lines that I think the reading does go really well, and she stops to give like Billy Crystal a certain look with the tears where you're like, okay, see, now there, like that's what I'm wanting. But it felt a little bit jarring to be going back and forth between like this part is kind of like the overacting, crying, comedic kind of thing, and then this part feels really sincere. So it felt to me personally like we were bouncing between like two different modes as opposed to like mingling two things into one thing. But
interesting.
So I don't dislike the scene, and I don't.
I mean, I wish you would just go ahead and say that you hate the movie, but I'm just kidding. And for the record, too, I'm always right there alongside you, fighting for the 3.5 star. I just like to mess with you sometimes on the hating this. I know you don't hate it. We mentioned it very briefly earlier, but I love the I love the scene right after that where what are their names? Jess and Carrie Fisher are in bed, and they each get calls from them, and they do that whole scene where they're both talking on the phone. I think that scene is brilliant. I think it's so well done. It's so well like edited, and it's really funny at times, but and it's also just like I love the end. Even like it lingers on the two of them in the bed, and Carrie Fisher's like, "Promise me I don't ever have to get out there again," or whatever. Like, as in being single again. Promise me I won't ever have to do that again. Because they're watching their friends, their best friends, just in like turmoil as they once were as singles, and they're like, we are never going back there again. And I just thought that was
we have to go back.
We have to go back to singleness. No, that was in a movie where I love anything. I love seeing Carrie Fisher in anything, but in a movie where her character is kind of has some lines that are like that make you like, this girl has some issues. I really liked that moment for her. It was a real moment, and it was a really human moment that I think a lot of us have felt before.
Yeah, I like that line from her a lot too.
Really
I think the line from her that made me laugh the most is whenever Harry is having his blow up about, he's like, put your names on it, whatever you want, because this like $10 thing is going to cost you how, like blah, blah, blah. And it's like, in that coffee table, you're going to be fighting over that. Well, and he leaves, and like she puts her hand on his chest and just looks up to him so like earnestly. And he's like, I just want you to know, I will never want that coffee table.
It's perfect.
That was really good.
Yes. So good. I miss her, y'all. I really miss her.
Yeah. Man.
It's always good to see her in something again. Like,
have y'all seen The Burbs with Tom Hanks?
Oh, dude, it's been forever. Is she in that?
Yeah, she's Tom Hanks' wife in that.
Wow, I totally forgot. It's been I was a kid.
Yeah, that's another great, just like 80s non-Star Wars appearance from Carrie Fisher. We were like, it's her. This is fun.
Well, I love Tom Hanks, but I'll go watch that just for her. I love Carrie Fisher.
Corey Feldman's in it.
Oh, wow.
Bruce Dern's in it. That movie is still funny.
I didn't realize by the slight change in, you said Corey Feldman, and I think if I'm not, I could have the wrong movie, but is he not in now I'm actually doubting. Is he not in Stand By Me? He's not in Stand By Me.
He is, right?
Is he? I'm doubting myself on it. I didn't know that Rob Reiner did Stand By Me also.
I still haven't seen it.
That's probably my personal favorite from Rob Reiner.
I mean, it's incredible. I need to watch it again. I just remember the feeling I had when it got done, and I was like, that's incredible. What a movie.
I think there's an argument. Yeah, it's Corey Feldman. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I thought he was in there. I just couldn't remember for sure.
River Phoenix.
Yeah,
Kiefer Sutherland, Will Wheaton.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot it was Will Wheaton.
It's such a good movie. I would love to cover that on the pod if we can, like at some point, because that's one that I know is amazing, but I haven't seen it in years, and I think it would be really fun. Also,
I've heard nothing but great things, but I still haven't seen it.
A lot of people like make an argument for it as the greatest coming of age movie. And
I've heard that.
There's
there's
not a lot of reasons to fight that.
No, there's really not. Yeah, I would agree with that. At least to what I remember.
There's a few other Rob Reiner films that I haven't seen. I still haven't seen Misery, which I've heard a lot of great things about.
He did that?
Yeah. He also did A Few Good Men, which I've also heard is amazing.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know he did that either.
Wow.
And then The Spinal Tap, which I've heard a lot of great things about too.
Okay. I haven't seen that either.
Oh my gosh. That movie is as funny as anybody's told you, at least in my opinion. Because I watched it after all the hype, and these go to it. I'm like, I feel like I know all these quotes, and then I watched it, and I'm like, good gosh, this is hysterical.
Nice.
I'll have to watch that at some point. Honestly, it sounds like I need to watch some Rob Reiner films.
Yeah, he's got a lot of good stuff there. That
and a lot
obviously
of variety,
the Princess
dude.
Bride is to me it's my favorite at this moment, but Stand By Me could pass it up if when I rewatch it. Or this, who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know. Princess Bride is like right around my top 10 of all time. It really is one of my favorite movies. I love it so much.
Yeah, I love it. It's one of those films where like it's not like perfect to me, but like that kind of is like a part of why I love it. Like it's just got like this, it's got so much charm to it, and like the imperfections that it has like kind of add something to it for me.
I don't know what imperfections you're talking about. Honestly, I really don't.
You keep saying that word.
I do not think you know what that means.
I got to see that in theaters last year with Carrie Elwes in the audience, and he did a Q&A after it.
It sounded like you were saying like he was sitting next to you.
I wish.
With Carrie Elwes.
No, he was actually sitting on Jimmy Jam's lap.
Yeah. And he was whispering in my ear, in this scene, we blah, blah, blah.
That's awesome. Was it a great experience?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. He was so like, I loved just, he told so many just stories of the shoot. Like there's just so many bits of like, on this day when we were shooting this iconic scene that everybody's seen forever, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is what I was off doing. And like he's just like, I my foot in this scene because we did this, and like it freaked everybody out. And then just like it's so wild because like that's Princess Bride is like another one where like I can still picture like the VHS box tape that we had. Like that was a constant viewing growing up at my house. And so all of these scenes are like so iconic in my mind. And so it was kind of wild to hear like, oh yeah, on the day that we shot this scene that's like, you know, branded to your brain forever, you know, this is what we were doing behind cameras. You know, this is what was going on, all that. I'm like, oh man, this is wild to me, just hearing like the process of making this iconic movie.
That's awesome. That's
so
awesome.
Good.
Well, I guess we should get back to the other one, When Harry Met Sally.
Or we could just talk about the Princess Bride, you know?
We started talking about When Harry Met Sally, but really we just talked about the Princess Bride. I'm trying to think of anything else. Obviously, there's just a lot of great scenes. We don't have to talk about every scene. But is there any other scene for you guys that you remember that you're like, for one reason or another, whether you found it really funny or touching or just really good? Is there anything else that like stuck out to you guys on your first watch?
I kind of like, I really, one of my favorite parts is just the part where they're like the extended sequence of them just being friends and a part of each other's lives for a while. And there was the one moment where like they have their big argument. He's like, can I say something now? She's like, yes. And he's like, I'm sorry. And like they have like, where it's just like, there's little moments like that where you're like, oh.
Because it's right after where he sees his ex-wife with her current boyfriend or whatever. And yeah, he's like really, really hurt by that, and he's acting out and heaping that upon everyone else. And yeah, that scene is really, really well acted too on both ends. And that's the scene you were talking about where she was like, "I will never want this table." And as they wrap up like talking downstairs and like they're hugging or whatever, they're coming back in the building. Jess walks out with the table and he's like, "Don't say a word."
Yeah, I think a scene for me is actually the scene where he runs into his ex-wife. Like everything building up to that. I love when they're just looking at the different stuff and they're like, "Ooh, what about this? Ooh, what about that?" And then he goes up to the karaoke machine, which I love that they like bring that back like towards the end of the film. But I love when he takes the mic and he's just like, Sally, please report to me, or whatever he says. Like it's really funny and like charming, and like just again like that's like those vibes that I was talking about when like they're just hanging out, and I'm like, man, like I'm having so much fun with this. But I love when they actually like run into his ex-wife and just seeing like I feel like his like physical acting was really good in that scene, and just like seeing how he like physically reacted to seeing her and then seeing the other guy, and then he's like, she kind of looks weird, don't you think she looks weird? And then Sally's
no,
like,
for real, her legs are filled out. Really, you didn't know her.
Sally's like, I've literally never met her before. Just like seeing him spiral into like anger and frustration, and then also totally random, but I always love like throughout the film when like both of them say it, but like a few times, but they're like, I think I'm catching something, or I think I'm coming down with something, like when they're feeling sad or whatever. I don't know, it was just like a little thing that they like kept like saying. I don't know if that like was a thing that people said in the 80s a lot or whatever, if that was just a thing for the movie, but
kind of a lot of colds going around in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean they are in New York City, so it makes sense. yeah
I think too, like just from a production standpoint, like at the beginning of the movie, like I feel like they did a really good job of making them both look young. I never have to like think about it.
Surprisingly effective, I feel like.
Yeah, like I never think, oh wow, they have a, you know, they have all sorts of makeup on and they have whatever. Like I never think about it. I actually sometimes just think, oh wow, I forgot how young Billy Crystal was in this movie. But they just aged him down really, really well. And as the movie goes on, and he gets to more what his actual age is, it is seamless. It's really, really well done.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I wanted to say. That's something that doesn't get the praise like all the time. I think it deserves, but like, you know, hair and makeup in this movie, great job. Like for real, they really crushed it.
Yeah,
I agree.
Put the Farrah Fawcett hair on her, and you age her down 5 years.
Yeah. I think on her it seemed like an easier task. On Billy Crystal, aging him down that much was pretty.
But just doing like the kind of the jock fuzzy late 70s hair kind of did wonders.
It did. Yeah. It was really, really good. Very effective, and not like overkill. It just felt like, yeah, that's what he would look like.
Yeah.
I love how he got there and he had like a bag and a baseball bat. Like, I feel like I see that in older movies. Like when people go on road trips, they bring like their baseball bat.
We used to be a proper country.
Yeah. Exactly.
What happened?
Brought our baseball bats everywhere.
Yeah. Whatever happened to that, man? Now we just bring TikTok everywhere.
Ugh, the world is so much worse for it.
Oh man. Well, do you guys have any like final thoughts?
I love this movie so much. I'm so glad we finally got to cover it. I'm really glad that you guys both liked it. And hopefully even on rewatches, you guys both find more and more to appreciate on it. It is really, really rewatchable. I'll say that. Like I've watched it like 3 times this year. I mean, mainly because like my wife and I watched it once. I watched it once by myself. And then I was like, oh, we're covering it for the pod. Fine, I'll watch it again. Like, but it was such an
if
easy.
You insist.
It wasn't a task at all. It was such an easy watch. So, and my wife actually did join me about halfway through, so that was cool.
Nice.
But yeah, we love this movie. It's one of our go-to rom-coms. We also both love You've Got Mail. And Nora Ephron, the writer of this one, also wrote You've Got Mail. So nice. She has a tone I really like in her writing. So props to her. But I love it.
Sick. What about you, James?
Yeah, I definitely like it. I like the vibes. Just I mean the background images for us. I guess you can't see it if you're listening to this as a podcast, but it's them walking through with like autumn color leaves above, and it's on the DVD disc that Michael is pointing behind him at. So I like that. I guess like the thing like I guess mainly just or to come back to the thing that I opened with just about like why I didn't quite love it is there is a sense in which I think for rom-coms and just general like this is a walk and talk movie, and also that's a genre that I think is great. It's just like it's a movie of characters walking and talking and standing and talking and just doing a lot of talking. It's just dialogue and dialogue and dialogue. But for a movie like that, I think a lot of it does come down to just like how much do you enjoy spending time with these characters. And enough time was spent where I'm like, I just kind of want someone to punch him in the face. And she's a bit ridiculous at times, and I know that like that's part of the point with her character, is that he learns to just like love that about her and stuff. But there were times where I'm like, these are terrible people, and like I'm not quite as invested. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want nothing but the world for them. Why can't they just? And I'm like, I don't know. He's kind of a bad guy. I don't know if I'm so invested for him finding his true love, because it's basically his life was like sleeping with half of New York until he finally found the right woman. So it's. I don't know. There are just aspects of it where I'm like, I'm never gonna. I won't say never, but it's not. They're not quite the characters that I feel like I'm just gonna absolutely love. So I do definitely like it quite a bit, and there's a lot about it just as a film that I like. But yeah, I think that's at least right now how I feel.
Fair. Like there's even just real quick, there's even that one scene to your point, James, where Harry went on a date and it didn't go well.
Yeah, I was thinking of that too.
And like she was literally like, I guess, sometimes we're just gonna, we may go on dates where it's just not, it doesn't go well. And it may be even longer before we can be with someone. I slept with her.
Yeah.
Like
it's just like there was I had this kind of sense of like I feel like for a rom-com to reach its full potential, I have to be on my couch being like, come on guys, I'm tired of the will they won't they just do this. And I spent so much of my time just being like, he's just a bad person. Does he deserve to be happy? I don't know. I don't think so.
I get it. It's fair.
Yeah. No, that's definitely fair. I think I'm definitely higher on the film, especially after like talking it through with you guys. Definitely like helped me land on where I'm at with the film. But yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot. It was a really breezy, easy watch. So I'm really looking forward to rewatches and seeing like Michael said, seeing the things that I'll appreciate about it even more on a rewatch. Because like talking through it, I'm already like, oh man, when I rewatch it, like I think I'm really, really gonna love a lot about it. And I already do love a lot about it. So I don't know. It was a really fun first time watch and a fun discussion too. So yeah, I'm glad we finally got the chance to talk about it on the pod.
La La Land next week.
I cannot wait.
That's going to be such a breezy, fun time, right?
Actually, yeah. Yeah.
It is fun for some of it.
Oh, man.
I love that. I really love this movie. I'm so pumped. I've only seen it once, so yeah, this is my first rewatch.
Wow. Oh man,
this is probably going to be viewing like 15 for me. This is one of my favorite movies ever.
Well, Damien Chazelle is one. I think I mean, he's in my top 5 directors working today. Like right now, he's got just such a short filmography, but like his films are just that I've seen are just so good. Like he just hits home runs almost every time. So I'm so pumped to just rewatch this because Whiplash is still the better film to me. But like, I mean, La La Land is not far behind. It's incredible. At least as of now. Maybe it'll be better later.
I think La La Land is just slightly above Whiplash for me.
Wrong.
Not my tempo.
Not my tempo.
Oh man.
The only line we can quote from Whiplash.
Yeah.
All of them are laced with horrible slurs.
Gosh. What a film. But yeah, looking forward to La La Land next week. If you're listening to this on the podcast feed, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're at like 61 subscribers now, so we're getting close to our first like big milestone with 100 subs on the YouTube channel. So definitely check that out, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can stay tuned in to when we're going live and everything. And then make sure to join our Facebook group, Banter Fodder, a film and television discussion group. And we've got, fun polls in there all the time. And sometimes we'll ask you guys what we should cover on the pod. And we're thinking about doing that next month. Last week we had talked about how in March we're gonna kind of do like a sports theme for the month, and we've already got 2 movies locked in for that, but we want to leave one of those up to everyone in the group on Facebook, so that's always a fun time, and yeah, make sure you go support your local theaters.
Wait, one more thing. We know several of you guys are still in here watching. We have several people that are in here like every week. If you haven't already done it, please go rate and review the podcast. That would really, really help. We want some ratings and some reviews on there. That would be really, really, really helpful. Helps the podcast get seen by people. So
exactly.
Yeah, I just wanted to remember that one. We tend to forget to bring that one up.
We do. Yes. But yeah, we appreciate everyone who stuck around for the live stream tonight. Some familiar faces. And there's a lot of new people probably who listened in, but didn't really say anything in the chat, but that's okay. I see how it is. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, we really appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. But yeah, until next time, go support your local theaters and go watch When Harry Met Sally. I don't know. All right, bye.